This week's Performance Anxiety features Laura Hall from Whose Line Is It Anyway? We talk about how she got started in music, how she began in improv, getting the Whose Line Is It Anyway gig. We also talk about some of her favorite moments from the show. We discuss her band Sweet Potatoes, and we also talk about karaoke improv and working with Roger Daltrey. Check out her website at laurahall.com. Check her out on Twitter and Instagram at Laura Hall Music. Give our show a follow at PerformanceANX on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes or any other platform that you listen to us on. Please enjoy this week's Performance Anxiety with Laura Hall.
Okay, are you ready for it?
I'm all set.
Hi, I'm Laura Hall from Whose Line Is It Anyway? And this is Performance Anxiety.
You okay?
What was that?
Are you okay?
Yeah, I was just shutting the door because I thought, then if my husband's watching TV, we won't be getting background noise. Yeah, I'm just tidying up, that's all.
Okay. I appreciate you jumping on with me tonight. Thank you.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry it took so long. We've been traveling a lot this last 6 weeks.
Oh, no problem.
And so then when I get home, I feel like I'm getting caught up on 5 million things, and anyway.
Do you do a lot of traveling?
We do, and more now that our kids are in college. And so I travel with my husband, and we teach music improv at universities and clubs and theaters and stuff. And so we'll travel and we'll go to a venue and like do a sort of intensive weekend, where we're teaching and performing and maybe coaching a house team. Sometimes I coach musical directors, all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
So, so they're nice weekend trips. You can fly out on, Friday, work through the weekend, and be home on Monday.
Oh, gosh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll be able to do something like that soon. My 3 kids are almost all in high school. I've got an 8th grader, a freshman, and a sophomore.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So that's coming.
It is an interesting change when the kids are gone.
Part of me is looking forward to it. I know my wife is dreading it because she's just not used to having no kids in the house. So, So that'll be one hurdle to overcome.
Right. And it's like the whole parenting thing. I feel like it's the job that always keeps changing. You know what I mean? Like as they get older, because the way you parent a 2-year-old is completely different from how you parent a 12-year-old. So, it's like the job keeps changing.
Yeah.
And the same is true with, now both my kids are away at college, but you're still parenting them. You're still, but it's just different. It just is another shift.
It feels to me, and maybe it's just because of the age my kids are and the stages they're in right now, that the longer I'm in this job, the harder it gets. It's just, it's like the opposite of my other job, where the longer I'm at it, the more I know what I'm doing. Kind of feel like the longer I'm doing this, the less I know what I'm doing. It's ridiculous.
I know exactly what you mean. And middle school and high school are, I hate to say it, but they're kind of brutal.
Yeah, I know. We got all 3 of them going through at the same time. So
yeah,
it's not fun. It's funny because on one end we go through it all at once, and then we're done with whatever phase it is. But holy God, is it brutal when they're doing it?
Yeah.
If it's not a fun stage, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And I love my kids to death, but oh my gosh, they try me. Oh man.
Yep. I felt the same way, but it will come through on the other side. My kids are lovely young adults, and not that we still don't have stuff, but they're really lovely young adults. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, well, we got through it okay, and they came out so far. They're doing all right.
So you've done your job well, so that's good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's what you're always hoping for, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because nobody sees the behind the scenes part when you're wondering what the hell I did wrong that they're acting like this. So.
Right.
Well,
yep.
Again, thank you so much for coming on. I've got a couple things that I guess 2 disclaimers. One is that one I'm sure you hear from everybody that interviews you is I love improv. I've taken some classes and I love it. Whose Line is what got me interested in taking the classes. So that's out of the way. So got that. The second one is I just want to make a disclaimer to the listeners that you are not the Laura Hall that was convicted of murder in 2005.
No, I'm not. Although at one point when she was up for parole, there was an article on the internet where they took her bio and my bio and did a mashup.
Oh my God.
And so it was like, yes, she murdered her roommate and she's been on Whose Line Is It? But then it also, like, if you read it at all, it made zero sense because it was like she's been in jail for 9 years or whatever and was doing Whose Line from jail
in Texas.
It was just like, yeah.
That's quite an understanding parole officer you have.
Yes, exactly. Some sort of work release program. Yeah, go to your comedy and then come back.
We trust you. I mean, you're going to be on TV, right? We'll know where you are.
How far could you go?
Yeah, we'll know where you are. You'll be easy to track. So I guess that leads me to one of my first questions: is whenever you get interviewed, do interviewers try really hard to make you laugh because of your association with Whose Line?
No, I would say not. And actually, people think I'm a tough laugh because I don't laugh much on camera when we're doing the show.
Right.
Like one of the big questions they always ask is, how do you keep from cracking up? Or, why don't you laugh when things are really funny?
Right.
So people a lot of times assume I'm a really tough laugh, but I'm not actually. It's just that when we're improvising, I'm so focused. And like when we're improvising a song, I've got they've got a lot going on that they're thinking of, but there's also a lot going on that I'm thinking of. I'm trying to track where we're going. Do they want to go to a chorus? Are we going to end now? Do we want to do a breakdown? Whatever, all the, infinite number of options there are. So I'm thinking about all that stuff. And so it doesn't register as funny in the same way it does to the audience.
Right.
And then when I'll watch the show later, I'll laugh my head off.
Oh yeah.
But while we're doing it, I'm like in hyper focused mode, So anyway, so people think a lot of times like, oh, she doesn't laugh very easy. Yeah. Actually, I'm a pretty easy laugh. You can ask my husband.
But you're a professional. That's what it is.
But I'm a professional, and I'm also, it's like that thing when you're performing, like you're on the edge of your seat. You know what I mean? Like you're hyper focused. I don't know how to put it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a tennis player is just like, what's going to happen next? What's the next move?
You're in your zone.
Yeah, you're in the zone. That's a good way to put it.
All right. So how did you get started in music? Did you grow up in a house full of music? Did you take lessons as a kid? Or how did everything get started?
Well, I did take piano lessons. My family is actually shockingly unmusical, and they will be the first to admit it. When they sing Happy Birthday, it's a scary event.
Oh, no.
I love them dearly, but they can't they can't carry a tune in a bucket.
Oh,
but
my
my
God.
grandfather played piano, and I loved to listen to him play. And so I begged and begged for piano lessons, and I finally got them. I think half the reason I stuck with it was because I was the youngest of 3 girls, and I surpassed my 2 older sisters fairly quickly. So, to be a younger who's better at something than your older sisters, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm the oldest, so but I see my youngest daughter doing that. She's very competitive in that regard. So I know I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So I took piano lessons, and then when I got into like high school age, I really wanted to learn how to play by ear and play in a band and write songs. And I had all these things. And my piano teacher was like, that's not real music.
Oh my.
like that's not valid at all. Like playing Bach and Mozart, that's real. All the rest of it just doesn't count. And I'm like, well,
wow.
Hold on, there's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving that teacher, and I found a teacher who would teach me like theory and stuff so that I could write my own songs, understand musical structure, how songs were put together, and then be able to, play along and, people who learn by ear do that first. I did it second because I had learned with traditional piano lessons. So I have both, which is great. I can read music, but then I also did spend a lot of time training my ear and all that too.
Did you study music in college? Did you go to college for music, or did you just jump into performing? What were you doing after elementary and grade school?
Well, so I did go to college for music. It took me a little while to sort of own it, to feel confident enough, and also to get over what an impractical thing to get a degree in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But I did it anyway. And then, but it took me a while. I was on the 5.5-year plan.
It's faster than me.
Then, and then right before my senior year, the summer before my senior year, I had been working at Second City as a waitress. And then I would do my junior year of college, I would do the occasional gigs with the touring company, maybe one every 6 weeks or 2 months.
Okay.
And so then, and the touring schedule was mostly we mostly toured universities, so it was around the school year. So like in August, we all got together to kind of prep for the fall tours. I was supposed to still just be the one gig a month or every couple months person. I was the backup. We're at this very first, getting to know you thing. The guy who was ahead of me and the woman who ran the program get in a huge blowout fight. He storms out. She turns to me and says, "So do you want to go on the road?"
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, I'm starting my senior year in 3 or 4 weeks. And it's taken me this long to get here. I just felt like I couldn't bag on it at that point. So she goes, "Well, you're going to have to decide, so figure it out. And you got to decide quick."
Wow.
So I called the head of the music department, have a meeting with her. I say, "Can I do this like an internship?" People weren't that into internships in those days like they are now,
Yeah.
Can we call this an internship? I'll do independent studies. I'll do, when I am home, I'll go to classes, but I'll do a lot of projects on my own. And she said, "Well, no one's ever done it before." And I said, "I know, but could I?" And I talked him into it.
Oh my gosh.
So I started, it was like my career and the end of college just couldn't have dovetailed better.
Wow. So it was being around all that, all those improv players worked to your benefit in that case. You thought on your feet.
Yeah, exactly. I thought on my feet when I wanted to get it to work my way. So then I worked with the touring company at Second City for several years, and it was like the best training ground. You're playing every kind of venue, every kind of sound system, every kind of audience, different casts all the time. It couldn't have been a better training ground musically for me,
So at this
what?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, at this point, are you still just doing the music, or are you getting out and playing with the players?
Oh, totally the music. It's funny. People always ask, don't you want to get up, and how come they don't let you play with them or whatever? I'm not particularly interested in that. I really like it from the musical side. And that's not always the case. There's a lot of people who end up being the musical director, by default in their improv cast, "Hey, you can play piano, you do it," And then sometimes you have frustrated actors stuck behind the piano. But I've never I love what they do, but I love what I want. What I love is what I do. You know what I mean? Is the musical side of it. I've never been like, how come I can't be an actor? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So, all right. So you just started touring with Second City.
Right. So then I toured with them for several years, and then I got promoted up to the Second City ETC, which was the second theater where I got to stay home in Chicago.
Okay.
You know, stay home and do shows there, which obviously was a lot easier than touring.
Oh, yeah.
Although I enjoyed touring. I've always liked traveling a lot. And then I was also, because that was more stable and steady, I was also playing in bands. I was doing sort of a variety of things. I was teaching piano, doing a little bit of everything. After I left there, then I worked like with The Annoyance. I played for them a lot. I did piano bar. I played for dance classes. I played in wedding bands. I did everything.
Wow.
And I think it actually has been the best for me as an improviser because I've done a little bit of everything. And it just, I think it really made me even stronger as an improviser, doing all those different things, being a songwriter, being an accompanist for singers, being, doing everything. So then we moved, then after that and I met my husband in the train company too. Rick was an actor.
And about what year was that?
This was in the early 80s, like maybe 83, 84. Okay. I think I opened my ETC show, I think was 85 or 86.
Did you run across any of the bigger names that were in Second City at that time? Did you play with any of the bigger guys?
I did a little bit. I played, on the big famous stage. I did play with Chris Farley a couple times in the train company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And poor Chris, he was a dear and his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
But he really was a lovely guy, and really messed up.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way. And I actually played I also would play for the people who would come up through the conservatory. You'd do 5 classes and then you'd have a graduation show.
Right, yeah.
And I played for Steve Carell's level 5 and I played for Stephen Colbert's level 5.
Oh, cool.
And both of them, because I played for a lot of those and a lot of people came through, both those guys those guys have something. You know what I mean? Like they got a thing. They got a thing. Like, well, I don't know.
You've seen at that point. You'd seen a lot of people going through it. You can definitely tell when somebody has the desire to do it. And I guess the intangibles to make a career out of it.
Yeah, and it is partly ambition. It's partly talent. It's also that charm thing, or I don't even know how to put it, but Wayne Brady is one. He's got that thing.
Oh God, yeah. He's got a lot of things.
And he was really pretty inexperienced when he first started doing Whose Line. I mean, he had been working in Florida and stuff, but he was pretty inexperienced. But I was like, oh, he's got that thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's got such a charisma about him. It's just
yeah.
And for it to come across on TV is, because he comes across as somebody just larger than life, and it's just it's so entertaining.
That's a really good way to put it. So when I was doing the ETC, Rick was on the Second City main stage, and he was in a cast with Mike Myers.
Oh, wow.
Who else came through? Megan Fay.
Okay.
And I was with Jane and Jeff Michalski, who aren't like world famous, but they're well known among improvisers. Rick worked with Dan Castellaneta as well.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Together, yeah. So that was sort of the era we were there. And then a lot of the people like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, they were after us. They were after we had left Chicago and moved to LA.
Okay. So you moved out to LA and
so we moved to LA and I was like, I'm not doing improv anymore. Like being an improv musician is like the niche within the niche.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, it's just too narrow. There's not like a Second City kind of gig here that's going to be sort of a steady, you know what I mean? A kind of like steady gig like Second City was. And I just felt like I wanted to do more of a variety of things. So I took some classes in film scoring and I was working on a musical and I would play every open mic I could find just to be meeting musicians and, you know, doing just kind of trying to find my way around. But I wanted to like play and dance and be a songwriter was really sort of my ultimate goal.
Okay.
And I did that for a little bit. And then I got a call to audition for Whose Line. And it was from my friend Ron West, who was a producer on the British version. Okay. And then also we were in the touring company together at Second City, right? Oh. So that's my link.
Okay.
So when they were looking for musicians, they were like, does anyone know anyone? And there were 3 people who were supposed to audition. Ron had recommended me. I was the first one. I auditioned with Wayne and Brad.
Oh, gosh.
And we all 3 got hired out of it.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, it was really great. But it was funny because, you know, a lot of times, I mean, I won't say I wasn't nervous because I was, but I was like, I know how to do this. I did this at Second City for so long.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I know how to do this and I know how to make actors look good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's always like the whole thing with improv that sometimes people don't get. It's all about making each other look good. And we all 3 looked good at that audition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the whole yes and concept of no denials and just accepting it and building on the premise that was given to you.
Right.
And that works its way into the music, I'm sure, as well.
Oh, definitely. And that thing of like really reading each other and listening to each other, which is especially interesting when you don't know the person. You know what I mean? Like I had done actually just a couple gigs with Brad. I can't even remember what the context was, but I'd improvised with Brad just a little bit. But I'd never met Wayne before we auditioned together.
Oh, wow.
And that thing of, you know, it makes you extra on your toes because you're trying to read someone that you don't know, that you don't have that common reference. You know, like Colin and Ryan have been friends for 100 million years. Yeah. They've improvised together forever. They know what the other one's thinking before they think it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, yeah.
And there's something really cool about that. There's definitely something cool about that. But there's also something interesting about improvising with someone you just met.
Yeah.
And not knowing anything.
It works well when there's a good comfort level because you can anticipate what's coming, but then there's more of an excitement, I guess, when you don't know what's coming. So, yeah. And I remember watching Colin and Ryan on the UK version when I was in college and finding out that there was going to be a US version. I got really excited and I couldn't wait to watch it. How long after the audition were you contacted and did they let you know that you had gotten the job?
It was pretty quick, thankfully.
Oh, good.
You know, because Rick as an actor auditions all the time, and sometimes it'll be weeks before you find out. But I found out pretty quickly. And part of it was that worked to my advantage, but I didn't know it at the time, but was because I was a woman, because there were so many guys in the cast. It was basically an all-male cast.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And even the 4th chair people, for the most part, were men. And the network was like, you got to have, can you get a woman in here? Yeah. And so me being a woman was an advantage. They were like, look, there's a woman. Okay. Yeah. And then later on, we did end up having some women in the 4th chair. Yeah. But it definitely was a little bit of a boys' club. And the network was like, no, we don't want it to be exclusively a boys' club. Yeah. So Yeah, so I found out pretty quickly, and the first thing we did was 6 episodes where we had the British host, Clive.
Yes.
Came over, and we did this sort of what I call a hybrid version with him as the host, but in America and sort of the format that they were hoping the American show would be.
Right.
And then they used those for like the test marketing stuff.
Okay.
But they already knew that Drew was on board with this because Ryan was the one who pitched it to them, and then and he brought Drew along.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So Drew was already along, but they did it with the British host. And I think the thinking was, wow, people like it this much with this sort of rather dry British host. They'll love it with Drew, who is like everyman. He's like a guy you'd have a beer with.
Yeah.
His show was really, the Drew Carey show was cooking at the time. It was the highest rated thing on ABC. So they were like, this is just a perfect fit.
Oh, yeah. That was such a funny show. I used to love watching that show. And then Whose Line came on right after it, I believe, right? So it'd be the Drew Carey show, and then Whose Line would air
in
right
the beginning, they were doing it that way. Yeah, because they were trying to get people to, like, oh, you like Drew, here he is in his other thing.
Yeah.
But then later on, they ended up moving us all over the place, partly because we kind of could go almost anywhere. And it could work almost anywhere time-wise. I mean, they never put us in the day. But they moved us around days a week. They moved us around times because we were sort of a good transition piece, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. It's like you said, you don't have to worry about transitioning into something. You don't want to, obviously you don't want to go from a comedy into a medical drama. So,
right.
And it's a little bit different in the UK version with the censorship issues. I know the UK version tended to be a little loose.
Right. And we were ABC, which was ABC Family, right? It's owned by Disney. You know what I mean? So it was even more so than maybe had we been on CBS or something.
Yeah.
And now on the CW, all bets are off.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is, it's just the times have changed as well, but it is also being on the CW as opposed to ABC Family. But we're starting our 16th season in January.
That's amazing.
And there was like 5 years in between, right? So it's been about 20 years since we started. Well, actually, see, I was pregnant. With my younger daughter on our first full season. So that's always my marker. And she's almost 20.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yeah.
Wow. One of the things that I always loved about the show was that it almost seems rehearsed because everybody's so good. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to take an improv class, was because I wanted to know how you guys did it. How did you know what to do? I mean, you're sitting up there is it really just getting suggestions from the audience, or did you guys practice it? Do you know, like, is it one of like 5 suggestions that maybe they'll sprinkle in and maybe a couple things are planned, but none of it is? I was blown away in my first classes to find out that it really truly is improv. How hard is it musically to do something that the audience throws out at you? You're just sitting there behind your keyboard or your piano, and then somebody throws out, hey, Wayne's going to do a reggae song about Clorox. How difficult is that on your end?
Well, for one thing, obviously Linda and I, because now after the second season, then Linda Taylor came in as well.
Right.
And I felt like things really could expand with her, because then we could sort of cover anything. Because the truth is, some styles are more guitar driven and some are more piano driven, right? If we're getting heavy metal, I'm like, have at it, Linda.
Yeah.
The most stressful part. So we have this advantage. We have this full arsenal, right? Linda's got her acoustic guitar, a banjo, an electric guitar, a bass. I've got 2 drum machines, a synthesizer, a piano. I've got an acoustic guitar and a ukulele, right? So between us, we can, and then she plays keyboard sometimes, and she also has a drum machine.
Okay.
Basically, that's the gist of it. So we can cover a lot of bases sonically, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't take much to get a style going, to get the audience to go, oh, okay, that's reggae. It's really interesting how little sometimes it takes. And sometimes it is the tone. So if I get reggae, I'm going to put, I'm going to pull up a reggae drum machine patch. I'm going to have bass in my left hand. I'm going to have organ in my right doing the tick, 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 right? And Linda's going to do a little noodly, little tiny noodly lines. And people will go, oh my God, that's reggae, right? So it's funny, like there's sort of a shorthand for how you can get into those styles. And then, of course, obviously, it's also huge is that the singers know what to do to make it feel like reggae as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So they have to be well-versed in a lot of styles as well. So it's a really interesting thing. It's like you have to have like a giant bag of tricks. And I swear to God, the most nerve-wracking part is pulling up the drum machine pattern and the sound on my synth. And, and I feel like I'm like the minute they go, oh, it's reggae, I'm like pushing 5 million buttons and just pressing the pedals for her guitar or whatever. And that's the most nerve-wracking part. But the truth of it is on the television show is if we weren't ready, they can cut the dead air out.
Right.
Right. If we're still scrambling, pushing buttons, which has happened a few times, they can cut the dead air out. And I will also tell you this, is that so it is really improvised, and we they never knew what the suggestion was going to be, that it's going to be Clorox, right?
Right.
But so say we're doing a game like Greatest Hits, and it's songs about Clorox. We probably did 5 or 6 of them, and they used the best 3.
Okay.
So it is really improvised, but it's also edited. And so although we have a very good success rate, and with all improv, it's like not everything goes as great as you would hope.
Yeah.
Part of the deal.
Yep.
We do have a really good success rate, but there's editing involved. And they're picking, not only are they picking the best 3, they're probably putting the best one last, right? So you have a little arc headed towards your best thing.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So it's a little editing and little sequencing maybe on some of the tracks. Exactly. They're taking a whole one. So say we did, a reggae, a Ray Charles, an opera, a ragtime, and a Motown. And it might be that they'll use the Motown, you know what I mean? They'll pick the 3 that went best. Right.
They won't edit within it, but they'll pick the 3 that went best. So, yeah, and when you think about a game like props, where it's a cut back and forth to the 2 teams,
yeah,
right? They probably did a bunch more than actually air, because sometimes it just takes a little while for the juices to get flowing and the brain to get moving,
Yeah.
So if they're cutting back and forth and each doing 5, they probably actually did 10. So and they're taking the best 5.
So how much gets left on the cutting room floor? How long does an episode tape for? And how many do you do in a day? So we've got an hour long show or half an hour long show.
A half-hour show.
Okay, half an hour show.
Right, which is actually 22 or 23 minutes.
Right.
By the time there's commercials. In fact, yeah. So they're always thinking about the games fitting in between the commercial breaks, right? It's an interesting thing. Obviously, you don't think about when you're doing improv live.
Right.
So what we do is we tape it's a really long day. The audiences are fantastic that they stick with us for this long day, and we'll tape maybe 28, 30 games.
Okay.
And we need 6 or 7 to make an episode.
Oh,
right? Okay. So we always get 2. We almost always get 3. And every once in a while we get 4.
Oh, wow.
So if we get 4 episodes out of it, that means pretty much every single thing hit, right?
Okay, yeah.
And it does happen so well. Most of the time, they get 3 episodes out of it. And so as we're doing the show, they're kind of already thinking about, oh, this music game would be great with this, whatever. They're trying to divvy up the music games. They're trying to combine things in a way. And so then at the end, we do pickups for the introductions because things won't necessarily be in the order that we originally did them. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
They're kind of cherry picking out of what we did.
Yeah.
And so we have to do extra intros to cover, this time, what if we're going from greatest hits into scenes from a hat, we need an intro that's going to do that, even though we didn't really do it in that order. So the last half hour or 40 minutes is 1 million intros and 1 million openings so that we can get more of them. And the crowd is tired and hungry, and we're tired and hungry. And it can be so hard. Those are the moments when Ryan gets really cranky.
Oh, yeah. Those are the moments. Oh, my. He and Colin, they're, obviously the backbone of this. When they have to go up and sing, they look so uncomfortable. Are they really that uncomfortable, or is it just kind of Wayne's the singer, so I'm going to just pretend like I'm uncomfortable, but I really want to do it.
Colin will be the very first to say that he is not a very strong singer.
Right.
And yet he does it. And I think it sort of comes from his Second City background of that everybody's got to sing. If you're in Second City, you got to sing, even if you're not a great singer. Oh. You have to at least sing in the cast numbers, right?
Right.
So I think it's he's like, okay, this is what's expected, so I'll do it. But he doesn't particularly like doing it, and Ryan doesn't particularly like doing it either. Yeah. And then here's the thing too, Ryan really truly does not like doing the hoedown. That's not just a bit. He really doesn't like doing it.
And that comes across.
Yes, and it does. And the hoedown is unique because, Irish Drinking Song, a game like that, you're setting each other up to rhyme, right? It's like a setup game, and so the 4 singers are interacting through the whole song, right? Which is how improv is, that we're interacting a lot.
Yeah.
A hoedown, basically, you write your own little verse and then sing it, right? So you're basically writing a musical joke in your head, and then you sing it. And so it's not improv in the same way. It's not interactive in the same way. And I think that's why they don't like it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, yeah, because I guess it goes against everything that maybe not against, but it's not what they're used to, what they do, basically.
Yeah, which is always about playing with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now it's okay, now go in your head and write a funny verse and then sing it.
Yeah.
But people love the hoedown. That's the other thing, though. It's as much as Ryan complains about it, people love the hoedown.
Well, yeah, so they love his. Well, his verses they're obviously painful for him, and I think that's what people like about it. They like watching him being uncomfortable because on so many other things, he and Colin and Brad, Wayne, all the other guys, they're pretty effortless. They're very comfortable in improv, right. And they do everything so effortlessly. And it's just fun to see them squirm a little bit.
That's true. That's really true. That is probably partly why people like it so much. So,
and it's plus the fact that they're just goofy, and it kills me. And I'll tell you right now, one of my favorite scenes that you guys have ever done was the one when Richard Simmons came on, and you guys were. I don't remember what in the heck the song was, but Wayne Brady was just going nuts. Richard Simmons was just doing all kinds of weird stuff, and Wayne's sitting there asking Richard what the hell he's doing, and. anytime Richard Simmons came on, I don't remember how often he came on. I don't think it was too often. It may have even been just the once, but oh my gosh, that was one of my favorite episodes. Musically, the improv scenes.
He was like a ping pong ball. Like he's got to be like ADD or something.
Yeah.
Because he, like, even when he's not on camera, he was just like boop, 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 like everywhere.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. And a couple times I think the producers were like, is he paying attention? Did he hear what, like, when they're telling him, okay, you'll come out and do this, and this is what's going to happen. And you can't tell if he's paying attention because he's sort of like everywhere. It's really interesting.
So he really is that way, because he definitely appears that way when he's on camera. He really is that way.
Yes, he was, and he was just like bouncing off the walls, and he was incredibly fun. I'm like, I could not imagine living with him.
Oh my god! Yeah, oh wow, that's
being like stuck in a car with him or something.
Oh, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. It's bad enough. I love my kids, but they get to be a handful in the car. I couldn't. Richard Simmons is worse than all of my kids combined at their worst. Oh my gosh! But he's hilarious on the show.
He is, and he was so sweet. He was really sweet and positive and although sometimes, like I was saying, you couldn't quite tell if he was paying attention, he wanted to do a really good job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He
cared about it. And it's just his energy, the way that he works, the way his brain goes.
So you've been on what? It's like over 280 episodes at this point? Is that accurate?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's somewhere around there.
Do you have a favorite game or stories of something that never made it to air that you'd be allowed to share? Now and remember, this isn't necessarily, this isn't ABC Family. This is just a podcast. So.
There's not a particular one that didn't make it to air. Like, some of my very favorite moments ever on the show did make it to air. Probably the ones that most haven't is when Ryan is ticked off about having to do a hoedown, and he will bag it intentionally.
Oh god!
So we'll get all the way through it, and typically he's last.
Yep.
We'll get all the way through it. He's last, and he'll drop an F-bomb in the last line of the last verse.
I have seen that every once in a while. They will either air it with the bleep, or I remember seeing one episode where he mentioned that. He's like, yeah, I guess we can't drop F-bombs or something in the intro.
Yeah. And he'll do it just because he's tired and cranky and not happy about having to do it or whatever. And so some of those moments, but the thing is, we're all like, oh dear God, now we have to do another one and we're going to be stuck here even longer. So stop it, Ryan. Just do one. But it's his small form of protest. But I think my very favorite moments that I can think of all really did air. Like I really like Three-Headed Singer, the Three-Headed Broadway Star.
Oh, yes.
And I think my very favorite moment ever on the show was we were doing one and Drew was singing and was one of the three. And it was going really, really well. And so I sort of took it like to a swell up to a bridge, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Drew got all excited and sang, "Won't you take me on a ride?"
I remember that one.
You remember that one?
Yes, because you're only supposed to say one word at a time.
Exactly.
And he started rattling off the verse.
Got like carried away in the moment of the music. It wasn't him farting around. You know what I mean? It was like he genuinely was moved by the music.
Yeah.
And then he laughed through the whole rest of the song.
I remember that.
And I think that was probably my favorite moment of all time. I also really liked when Robin Williams was on and we did a big gospel number.
Yes.
And you ever saw that one? And they went up in the house. They went up in the audience and
I remember that. Yes.
And yeah, it was, raising the roof kind of big fat gospel number. I had a really good time doing that.
Well, getting to work with Robin Williams would have been a highlight of just about anybody's career.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember one, and this is just a little aside. I don't remember what episode it was or even what the song was, but I remember one time that Wayne was supposed to sing a song, and you're getting the keyboard set, and you punch in your drum beat, and it gets stuck at some insane beats per minute, and it won't turn off.
Right. Well, yeah. So it was we were doing a Village People kind of thing. So it was already sort of up tempo and energy. And there's a button on my keyboard. So the keyboard was generating the drums, right? Just because it had that too. And there's a button on the keyboard, an accelerate button. And I'd never noticed it before, never used it. And when I was playing, I guess I was just like, getting excited, and I accidentally punched the accelerate button.
H-O-R-W-A-R-D. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Howard. Can you last? Howard, how does the song get so damn fast? So Howard. Hey, 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 hey. Howard. H-O-R. Howard. W-A-R-D. Howard. H-O-R.
Breakdown, right? What happened to the...
It's hard to explain. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No, I didn't know the Village People even did poke it.
Watch out for those tempo changes, man. Because when we go into the second bridge, this takes off.
Howard, or as Wayne spells it, Harward.
It's hard to spell at 210 beats per minute.
But I had no idea what was going on. I could not figure it out. And they're looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I so genuinely, people think I did that to punk them or something. And I totally did not. I literally had to turn my keyboard off to get it to stop.
I remember that's one of my favorite moments of all time on that show.
Yeah, it was. And of course, that's what people remember was my biggest screw up, the biggest. And my favorite moment of it was I look down at the keyboard. I'm trying to figure out what is happening. And I look up and Colin is trying to dance like they were doing some sort of, disco dance moves. And he's doing them faster and faster. And he just looked so adorably hilarious, and I totally lost it.
That was such a great moment. That just solidified the show as one of my favorite episodes of all time.
It was one of my favorite and one of my most embarrassing. But
that's what improv is, right? You got to be out there and be open to falling on your face.
Right.
Yep. So all of this has led to a book and some improv karaoke CDs.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about those?
Yeah. So I did improv karaoke because people would always be like, hey, can you send me a track for the hoedown or for the average drinking song? Because my improv group wants to do it. And I can't because legally I can't. It's in my contract because those particular tunes are owned by the show. And so I'm like, I can't. But I'm like, but I could send you an Irish style track or a, or a country style track. So I started making some tracks in different styles. And then I ended up doing this improv karaoke CD. So it's a bunch of different styles. And then I brought some friends in to improvise over the tracks to sort of be demos for people who'd never done song improv before. You know what I mean? If you didn't know how to do it. So we had Dan Castellaneta and Keegan Michael Key, and we had some really fun people come in. Kathy Kinney came and did one, and my husband Rick did a bunch. We had a really good time. And so then I made this like 2 CD set. And so so one is with the demos and some tutorials, and then the other is just the tracks. So people use it to work out when they don't have a musician.
Okay.
And a fair amount of improv groups are using it now for performance, which wasn't what I was thinking at first. I was thinking just for like practice. You know? But there's people who use it for performance and in all sorts of interesting and creative ways. Like I've met different improv groups who are like, oh, we use it this way. We have them pick a number, and then that tells us the style, and then that,
Oh, wow.
It's just interesting.
Well, that's awesome.
So that was the first thing, and it's a teaching tool, but then also has turned into this performance tool as well. And then I was doing a podcast with a guy named Bob Baker.
Okay.
And after we finished, he said, have you ever thought about writing a book about what you do? And I'm like, I have no idea how to write a book. and I'm like sort of too busy to learn how to be, or what, you know what I mean? Like learning to be an author just is like a whole nother new thing to learn. And he's like, well, I'm an author and I've written a lot of books, and books about how to do things. You know what I mean? Like the instructional books.
Oh, cool.
So he's like, we could co-write this. And I'm like, that would be so cool. And then it turns out, he also does improv. He's also a musician. He's also a writer. He's one of those like very widely creative kind of people.
Oh, there you go.
So we sort of figured out the sections, and then I would type up a bunch of stuff and send it to him, and he like turned it into paragraphs and chapters and all sorts of beautiful
stuff. Wow.
Like he structured it, because I didn't know how to structure it.
Okay.
Like I felt like I had the information, but I didn't know how to structure it.
Oh, that makes sense.
So, so then we started the book, and it's interesting because a lot of actors are, again, once you do something, you never know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Like actors and directors will get it because they want to know how to talk to a musician, right? Because it's for musicians.
Okay.
So they want to know how to talk to a musician, or they want to train a musician. They know a college student who plays, who's interested in learning, but they don't know how to tell them how to do what I do.
Okay.
So then they're like, oh, now I have a book and that can help. So then we can have a common language,
Yeah, it's a translation guide.
Yes, it is. It's a translation guide. Because really what I do is sort of a mystery to the actors most of the time. They know when they like it or when they don't.
Yeah.
They don't really know what I'm doing over there,
Yeah. One thing you had mentioned about the hoedown leads me to a question that I had almost forgotten about. The songs that you guys do, they're improv, but I guess does the production company own those songs after they're improvised? I mean, you can't go to and we'll talk about this in a second, but you can't do a gig with your band, the Sweet Potatoes, and throw out the reggae song about Clorox.
Exactly. So they do everything that we create on the show. They own, although we do get the publishing, right? I get ASCAP.
Oh, cool.
And so because they're original compositions, right? So, but they own them, and we couldn't, and that's why I was saying why, like, I'm not allowed to record the hoedown and send it to people.
Right.
Or in any way I couldn't make a CD of songs that we've done on Whose Line.
Right, yeah, like a greatest hits of
greatest
Wayne
hits.
and Laura.
Right, exactly. So, so they are the property of the show, but we do get publishing on them as songwriters, as creators.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about how that would work until just trying to, and I was watching old episodes. I'm like, I I wonder how that works. And
Yeah.
so figured out how perfect time to ask.
I didn't even know how it worked when I started doing the show.
Oh, wow.
And I was already a member of BMI because I had a couple little like films that I'd done stuff on, and you know what I mean? Like I had a little bit of BMI. And when I got my first check, that had Who's Line stuff on it, I was like, what? I had no idea. And so then I had to call, I called all the actors and I was like, okay, because like I can't imagine that Collins was a member of BMI or ASCAP before that.
Right.
And I'm like, you might as well because you're getting 1/5 of, or you're due 1/5 of the royalties on the hoedown, for example.
Yeah.
Right? Because 4 singers plus me. So I'm like, you guys should all join BMI or ASCAP because it's money that you could be getting. It's mailbox money, you know.
Yeah.
So.
See, look at that. You're helping your cast members make some extra money.
There you go.
The show went on hiatus from 2007 to 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, you formed a band called the Sweet Potatoes.
Yeah.
How did you guys get started doing that, and who's in it, and what kind of music are you making?
So the way that it got started is because my husband, Rick, made an indie film, and he hired a friend, Kelly, to play his girlfriend.
Okay.
And so they were on the set together. It was like a 10-day shoot or something. So they were hanging out all the time. And he called me and he said, man, you and Kelly should write together because you so much love the same kinds of music. Like everything that she says she loves, I know you love too. So, like I'm a huge fan of Emmylou Harris and like Dolly Parton and that sort of old school country folk stuff. And I'm like, Rick, it's not that easy. Just because people like the same kind of music doesn't mean we can write together, And he's like, well, all right, but you could try. And he was right. Okay, he was right.
So should I send him the file of this show afterwards? So he'll always have a recording of that?
Exactly, of his wife saying one time that he was right.
So you guys do, sing, perform, I guess an Americana style of music?
Yes, so it's Americana. Kelly and I do the writing, and Rick plays. So Kelly plays guitar and sings. She's a fantastic singer. Rick plays bass and sings and plays harmonica. And I get to play guitar and accordion in this band. I don't play piano. Yeah, and I sing also. It locks those heartbreak memories, makes me want you here with me, my sweet thing. You got my heart pulling on every string. Oh, sweet, sweet thing. Sweet thing, I never let you go. I couldn't even if I tried. Yeah, so it's been really fun to explore like a different part of my musicianship.
That's awesome.
and play a different instrument. I've been playing piano since I was 9. It's really nice to play guitar in a band.
Yeah. Do you guys, is it all originals or do you do some covers?
We do some covers, certainly. And it varies depending on the gig and stuff. But we really came together with the writing and the harmonizing. Like we really like vocal harmonies a lot. And so our stuff is loaded with that. So, so that's where we come together. And we've made 3 CDs now, and we tour and we play locally, and we have a great time. We're writing all the time and trying out new material, and it's my baby for sure. I got no complaints. I'll tell you that.
So you do. It sounds like you do a lot of traveling between your time with the Sweet Potatoes, but you also do workshops for music improv.
Right. So Rick and I teach music improv together. Sort of, it all happened really organically. It sort of grew out of the improv karaoke, and then and now we're doing a lot of it. And we've developed our own curriculum, and we're really good teachers, if I say so myself. So we do, yeah. So we tour and we teach at like theaters and colleges and improv clubs, and we'll go coach teams and that kind of stuff. And then we also tour with the Sweet Potatoes, and sometimes we'll even mix them up in the same tour, right? We'll have if we're in an area, because once you get out east or something, you might as well book up what you can.
Yeah, exactly. Because you guys are still on the West Coast.
Right, we're in Los Angeles.
All right. Well, when you guys come out to the East Coast, I have to keep an eye out for that. Maybe I can catch a Sweet Potatoes show. Like I said, I've taken improv classes and I love improv, but I don't play instruments. I don't know how to read music. I play a little bit of crappy guitar, but that's about it. So I don't know how good of a fit I would be for that class. But
the classes are for the singing side.
Oh my gosh,
Classes are for the singing.
That's probably even worse, but that might be why I should take it.
Yes, and it's so interesting because doing song improv, I think, is like the scariest of the scary for people, for a lot of people.
Oh, it would be for me.
Like, what was that?
It would be for me because I remember when we were doing the improv classes, one of the warm-ups would be, the zip, zap, zop stuff. But then they also would have us stand in a circle, and you would get in the middle of the circle and you would sing. And you couldn't stop singing until somebody else in the circle tapped you out. And then everybody in the circle sang. And so I remember the first time we did it, we had no idea what the warm-up exercises were going to be. And he tells us what we're going to be doing. And everybody in the class is just groaning and God. And I just sat there and I waited because I love music. I have a huge music collection and I listen to tons of music, but I couldn't think of a single song at that point. I mean, I've got like 3,000 CDs in the room that I'm sitting in right now. And I couldn't think of a single song to tap somebody in. Oh, it was ridiculous. And then I came up with a plan after that. I decided the next time we do that, I'm going to tap in really early and I'm just going to sing happy birthday. And that's what I did.
There you go.
So that worked out. So I would be a good candidate for your class. Get me over that hump.
Yeah, we're really good with beginners because I know how intimidating it can be for people. And so we're really good at making a very safe space and then really easing into it. So we really start with exercises to help people get used to their voice. We do like gibberish singing, so you don't have to be worried about thinking up lyrics.
Oh, wait.
You know what I mean? Like we sort of ease your way into it. And so we do get, especially in the beginning, obviously in advanced classes, people have done it before and they like it and they know they like doing it.
Yeah.
But in beginner classes, typically half the people at the start will be like, okay, this scares the crap out of me.
Yeah. I'm raising my hand right now.
And yet they're successful. 3 hours later, they're like, wow, I did it. I may not have been great. Or you know what I mean? Like I'm not Ariana Grande, but I did it,
But I'm also not Tiny Tim.
Yes. There you go.
I've got one more question for you before I've taken up a whole lot of your evening tonight. So the last question I have for you is you've done work on children's albums and you did a production called Wheels on the Bus, and that starred Roger Daltrey as an 8-foot dragon.
Yep.
Did you actually get the chance to work with him, or were you guys separate?
No, I did. Yes, indeed, I did, because I was a songwriter. So I was, and the first one we did. Okay, this is a really low budget production. At the time, The Who was in retirement and had it seemed like there was no way they were ever going to get back together. Obviously, since then they have.
Yeah.
Okay. So he had moved to Los Angeles and wanted to have a career as an actor. He was really exploring acting. And voiceover is a really interesting kind of acting. And he's got a very unique voice because it's sort of half British, half American.
Yeah.
So he's like, I want to do voiceover work. I want to learn how to do it. Okay, so that was his mindset. And then along comes this incredibly low budget project where they go, oh, we don't care that you don't really know how to do voiceover work. We want you. And so it was sort of a perfect fit. It was the only reason we got him. Okay. That was the only reason. So, and then there's a bunch of kids singing. I sang on it. Everybody I knew practically sang on it, but he was the dragon. So we've got everybody else's parts recorded. It's time to do his. And the producers go, yeah, we're just going to have him come to your studio. And I'm like, okay, wait, my studio's in my garage. It's itty bitty. It's a project studio. It's not like a proper studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think we should have Roger Daltrey come here.
Oh, my God.
And it's tiny. And I don't have like a waiting room thing like a real studio does. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when you turn the air conditioner off, like I never record in the afternoon because when you turn the air conditioner off for the sound, it gets blazing hot in like 5 minutes. Okay, so all of the above, I'm like, no, don't bring Roger here. Please don't bring Roger here. Please don't bring Roger here. Oh, no, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So they bring him, and of course they schedule it for like 2 p.m. on a day when it's 110 outside. I mean, and I'm like, you guys, you're not listening to me. Anyway, so they bring him in. He's such a good sport.
Oh, good.
I couldn't believe. But so then he's there, plus the producers, plus I brought in an assistant engineer because I was nervous.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I didn't want it to be like, oh, Roger Daltrey's here and I've screwed up,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's like 7 of us and we're like in a closet. Practically. And it's 1,000,000 degrees.
Oh, jeez.
And it was and he was such a good sport. But when we finished, he said to the producers, if I do another one, we're not doing it like this. And I'm like,
I'm not coming back to Laura's house.
And then he came in the house. We had just remodeled our kitchen and he had bought this really nice house in Sherman Oaks and he was going to remodel his kitchen. So then him and Rick sat there talking about flooring and drawer pulls and
oh my gosh.
For like half an hour after we were done. Like only my husband would be shooting the breeze with Roger Daltrey about, we were going to do the chrome plated, but we decided to do
That is the best story. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Who else can say that?
And he ended up doing 2 more. We ended up doing 3 of them together. Thank goodness the other 2 we didn't do in my studio.
Yeah.
But he was a great sport. But then the Who got back together and he was like, oh, I think I'm going to do that instead. What's that?
I guess. I mean, the Who or Wheels on the Bus
or
Part
the Wheels
4.
on the Bus. I don't know. It had to be a hard choice for him.
Yeah, I'm sure he tore him up. Well, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with me. Like I said, I've taken up a ton of your time, and I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It was really fun.
Oh, I'm glad.
The points in that game are going to go to Laura, who has to play that infernal song over and over and over again.
Yes.
She deserves it.